When it comes to liability insurance, and I'm talking about general liability, products liability, auto liability, professional liability, also known as E&O liability, cyber liability, or D&O liability, is the common $1 million limit enough protection? And if it's not, how much do you need and how do you get it? Hi, I'm Gordon Coyle. Welcome to my channel where we talk about the risk and insurance issues on the minds of business owners. My goal here is to help buyers make more informed decisions when it comes to business insurance. If I can help you, reach out, let's connect, and let's chat. And before I jump into this, can you hit that like button and subscribe? Thanks. So this question of limits came up recently in a conversation with an attorney friend of mine when we were talking about a claim scenario on a professional liability policy, and he told me that his client had $1 million of professional liability insurance, and it made me think, you know what? We've been selling and buying $1 million limits of insurance since the 1980s. Why is that? Why is it so common? And is it really realistic in today's world? To be honest, I don't think it's sufficient, and I'll break down some reasoning here as why I think that way. First, let's break down into two different groups the policies I mentioned a minute ago. General liability and auto liability are commonly written on an occurrence basis, and that's fine to write these policies with limits of $1 million because you can easily and cost effectively get higher limits of protection with an umbrella policy. Where I think a lot of business owners and insurance brokers get it wrong is that they either forget to get an umbrella policy, or they only price out what $1 million limit costs and they go with that. The point here is that going to $2 million or $3 million on a small business account may only be a few $100s, and it may be worth it. And on a larger account, it's going to be a price increment that is probably affordable. At the very least, ask for pricing options and make a decision from there. Now, if you have vehicles in your business, then you need more than $1 million auto liability and more than $1 million umbrella limit of liability. Auto claims have the propensity to blow up into huge numbers, and being protected is critical. You've got to think about the potential for auto claims that involve multiple injured parties, or worse, a fatality or two. These are what are called nuclear claims, which are reaching catastrophic levels. The more autos you have, the heavier the autos you have, the higher the limits you should be thinking about. All right, so let's look at the second group of policy I mentioned earlier, and these are claims-made policy forms and include E&O or professional liability, D&O or directors and officers liability insurance, cyber, employment practice liability or EPLI, and pollution, which is also called environmental liability. The first point I want to make here is that 99% of all business umbrella policies do not provide extra or excess protection over these types of policies. As an example, if you're a lawyer and you have a business owner's policy and an umbrella policy and a lawyer's professional liability policy or LPL, your umbrella does not provide excess protection over your LPL policy. In order to get higher limits of protection over your E&O, D&O, cyber, or pollution, you're going to need to have specific excess protection over each of these policy forms. There are some exceptions to this rule, but most of these policies cannot be grouped together or to purchase excess insurance over more than one coverage type. So, why do you need excess protection over $1 million? For this group of policies? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first reason is like the occurrence policies mentioned before, claims are way higher today than they were in the 80s or 90s. $1 million limit may not be sufficient to protect you in a lawsuit covered by these policies. The second reason is that most claims-made policies, which we're talking about here, include defense costs within the limit of liability. What that means is that if you have a claim, the cost of defending you in court, the lawyer's fees, the court costs, etc., come out of your policy limit. They deplete the amount of coverage you have. Get involved in a long drawn-out court battle and your insurance company spends $150,000 on legal fees and you have $1 million limit of policy, that means there's only $850,000 left in that policy to pay any settlement amounts. Get it? That's why higher limits may be important. Now, when it comes to cyber insurance, this is a really huge issue, and here's why. It doesn't matter how big or small your business is, if you experience a data security event, which means a breach of data, a hack, a ransomware attack, or anything like that, these types of events usually spawn very significant costs in the form of notification expenses, legal fees, crisis management costs, forensics and remediation costs, ransom payments, fines, penalties, and potentially huge lawsuits, and the list goes on. Here's my thinking on this. Get optional quotes for higher limits. Most insurance companies can offer up to $3 million of limits as options in the primary policy. Often the difference between $1 and $2 million is pretty minimal. At the very least, consider taking the $2 million. If you experience a claim, you'll thank me. If you don't have a claim, it's not a big dent in your budget. Here's the bottom line. The purpose of business insurance is to protect your most valuable asset, your business, and to give you peace of mind. Don't be lulled into thinking that the protection you purchased 20 or 30 years ago is sufficient today. Times have changed, and unfortunately, a lot of brokers aren't thinking this way. Ask to see higher options on your renewals and budget accordingly. Spending a little more today could make a huge difference if a big claim happens tomorrow. Have other questions, issues, or concerns over whether your business insurance is right? Contact us for a free evaluation and simply a non-aggressive, non-salesy conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Our contact info is in the description box below. Let us know how we can help. Thanks for watching, and if you found this valuable, do me a favor and hit that like button so YouTube shares this content with other business owners like you. Thanks.